A man once gave his daughter in marriage for a single stone. He wasn't crazy. He was the wealthiest, most respected man in his entire community. And that stone, that was his money, his entire fortune. Now look at the note in your wallet right now. Really look at it. It's just paper, a little ink, some numbers printed on it. No bank in the world will give you gold for it anymore. So why does that piece of paper buy you food, shelter, and everything you need? Because you believe it will. Your neighbor believes it will. The shopkeeper believes it will. The moment that belief disappears, that note becomes worthless, literally overnight. Money was never a thing. Money was always just an idea. And that idea has started wars, built empires, and destroyed civilizations. This is the real history of money, and it is nothing like what you think. About 10,000 years ago, humans had no money at all. If you had wheat and your neighbor had meat, you made a deal. But what if your neighbor didn't want your wheat that day? Economists call this the double coincidence of wants. For a trade to happen, you must have exactly what I want, and I must have exactly what you want at the exact same time. It was as difficult as finding a perfect marriage, where both families agree on everything instantly. A farmer with 1,000 kilos of grain couldn't get sandals because the sandal maker wasn't hungry that week. So humans thought, there must be one thing that everyone always accepts. First people tried animals, cows, goats, sheep, camels. But animals get sick, they die, you can't split a cow in half to make change. So the search continued for something better. In ancient Mesopotamia, which is modern-day Iraq, people started using barley as currency around 3000 BC. Clay tablets from that era record wages, debts, and prices all measured in grain. A worker's monthly salary was a bushel of barley, enough to feed a family barely. Barley worked well, everyone needed it, everyone wanted it, it could be divided easily. But it could rot, rats could eat an entire fortune overnight. So humans discovered something that would change civilization forever. Metal, copper first, then bronze, then silver, then gold. These didn't rot, didn't get sick, could be divided into any size needed. And most importantly, they were rare. Rarity made them powerful. Around 600 BC, in a kingdom called Lydia in modern-day Turkey, a king named Croesus had an idea. Instead of cutting random lumps of gold for every trade, what if there were standard pieces with an official mark guaranteeing their value? Croesus minted coins from a mixture of gold and silver. On one side, a roaring lion, on the other, the royal seal. That seal was the king's personal guarantee, his word staked on every single coin. Trade exploded, markets grew, cities became wealthier than ever before. Greece copied it, Persia copied it, Rome scaled it across an entire empire. But every ruler discovered the same tempting trick. What if we kept the weight the same, but put a tiny bit less gold inside? Nobody would notice immediately. The government would pocket the difference. The Roman Empire did this so aggressively that their silver coins eventually had almost no silver at all. Prices rose, people got poorer, trust collapsed, and the empire fell with it. History's first inflation was created by governments themselves. Sound familiar? Carrying heavy coins across long distances was dangerous. Bandits knew exactly what merchants were carrying. So in China during the 7th century AD, merchants came up with a brilliant solution. Deposit your coins at a trusted office. Take a paper receipt instead. The Chinese called these receipts flying money, because unlike heavy coins, paper could float on the breeze. A lifetime of savings could fit in the palm of your hand. The Song dynasty made this official in 960 AD. The world's first government issued paper currency. And for a while it worked magnificently, trade boomed, the economy flourished. But then the government made the mistake that every government in history has been unable to resist. They needed more money, so they printed more, then more, then more. The more they printed, the less each note was worth. A bag of rice that cost one note now cost 1,000. Merchants stopped accepting paper. The whole system collapsed. China invented paper money, and China also invented its destruction. Humanity never learns. We just repeat the same mistakes with better technology. In 1271, Marco Polo traveled to China and came back telling Europe that people bought things with paper there. Europeans laughed, paper worth more than gold. This man had lost his mind. They called his book the Book of a Million Lies. 400 years later, Europe desperately needed the exact same invention. Sweden issued Europe's first paper banknotes in 1661. England followed in 1694. The thing Europeans laughed at for centuries became the foundation of modern civilization. Now let me tell you about the strangest currency system ever discovered. On a tiny island in the Pacific Ocean called Yap, people used enormous stone discs as money. Some were 4 meters wide, some weighed 4 tons. Nobody moved them when ownership changed. Everyone just agreed who they belonged to. Once a massive stone sank to the bottom of the ocean. People said, "Fine, we all know it exists down there, we all know who owns it." That underwater stone was used as currency for generations. The stone was never the money. The shared belief about the stone was the money. Your banknote works exactly the same way. For most of the 1800s, the world used the gold standard. Every paper note was backed by actual gold in a vault. If you didn't trust the government, you could walk into any bank and exchange your notes for gold. Any day, any time. Then World War I arrived. Fighting costs money, far more gold than anyone had. So governments printed and printed and printed. The gold standard broke. After World War II in 1944, all world currencies were tied to the US dollar, and the dollar was tied to gold. America had won not just the war, it had won the entire global financial system. But then America spent too much on the Cold War and Vietnam. They printed more dollars than they had gold. On the evening of August 15, 1971, President Nixon appeared on television. He said, effective immediately, the United States will no longer convert dollars to gold. The gold window was closed, forever. Every currency on earth became what is called fiat money. The government says it is valuable, therefore it is valuable. The moment that collective belief collapses, the money dies overnight. We are all right now participating in the world's largest act of collective faith. Here is something every Pakistani should know. When Pakistan was born in 1947, there were no Pakistani banknotes ready. No printing presses. No paper, no time. So the government took Indian rupee notes and stamped the word Pakistan on them. That stamp, that simple ink stamp, was the first Pakistani money. Money created from nothing but belief and the willpower of a new nation. The first real Pakistani banknote came in 1948. Now fast forward to 2008. The global financial system almost completely collapsed. Banks failed overnight. Governments bailaid them out with trillions of taxpayer dollars. 2 months later, a mysterious person calling himself Satoshi Nakamoto published a paper online. He described a currency that needed no bank, no government, just mathematics and code. He called it Bitcoin. In 2010, a programmer paid 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. Today those 10,000 Bitcoin are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That programmer is still alive, and May 22nd is now celebrated as Bitcoin Pizza Day. We have traveled 10,000 years together in just a few minutes. From barley in ancient Iraq, to flying money in China, to stones at the bottom of the Pacific, to invisible digital coins. And through all of it, one truth never changed. Money is not a thing. Money is a story, the most powerful shared story humans have ever told. Barley worked because everyone agreed it was valuable. Gold worked because everyone agreed. Paper works because everyone agrees. Bitcoin works because enough people have decided to believe. The Roman Empire printed its way into collapse. Zimbabwe printed its way into issuing $100 trillion notes that couldn't buy bread. And governments today are printing at a scale no previous generation could have imagined. So the next time your wallet is empty, remember this. You are not lacking a thing. There is no thing to lack. You are simply temporarily short on the world's most powerful collective belief. That is all money has ever been. That is all it will ever be. If this video made you think differently about the money in your pocket, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Subscribe right now and hit the bell, because the next video is going to make you question something else you thought you completely understood. I will see you there, bell.